Hello my friends, in today's video we will take a look at Panasonic Lumix S 24-60mm F2.8 for L-mount. Non-standard standard zooms are a very popular article nowadays, so it makes sense that Panasonic has decided to make one for growing L-mount system. Panasonic's system launched 24-70mm F2.8 is also a lens that feels a little bit too heavy on second generation bodies, so having a smaller first-party option is very welcome. In this video, we will take a look at 24-60mm F2.8 in combination with Panasonic S1R II and S1R II, and I will try to help you decide whether you should get one. 24-60mm focal range is a compromise to achieve the size that Lumix was aiming for without compromising the aperture. Sacrificing millimeters on the long end is generally a more accepted option because 24mm on the long end is a very useful focal length for landscapes, cities, vlogging, and so on. 60mm on the long end is still suitable for portraits and some product photography. If you are using a high-resolution camera, such as the S1R II, you can always crop in. Of course, not everybody will be happy to sacrifice the long end, but I personally am. This is a constant f2.8 lens, which means that the light gathering is not compromised and you can get very decent subject separation, especially at the long end. In exchange for those 10mm, you will get a lens that is just 10 cm long and weighs 544 grams. That makes it probably about half of the mass of Panasonic's 24-70, and it is actually not that much bigger than 20-60mm f3.5 to 5.6. Mounted on the S1R II or S5 II series cameras, it is very well balanced as expected. It actually works pretty well even with the S9. The build quality is very solid, much like with other Lumix S lenses. The outer part is made of plastics, but the quality of the materials is well above average with very nice texture on the outside. I can probably say that it feels quite premium. It is weather sealed with a proper weather sealing gasket around the mount. The mount is metal, of course. 24-60 uses standard 77mm filter thread. This is a common filter size which is also shared with other Lumix S zooms such as 70-200mm f4. The markings on the front side of the lens are dark gray to prevent reflections in macro situations. A lens hood is included in the box. It is a high-quality plastic lens hood with a release button. It is fairly short, but it will get the job done. Regarding the control elements, there is the focusing ring, zoom ring, AF/MF switch, and a function button. The zoom ring is fairly easy to move with a nice amount of completely even resistance and clear markings, so no complaints there. 24-60 uses a focus by wire system, of course, so the ring is completely smooth, but it also has some amount of artificial feel to it. The interesting part are the settings. It has the same settings as the 100mm macro, which means that you can set the angle or the speed of manual focusing up to 1080 degrees for super fine adjustments. You can also set the direction of the ring and choose between linear or non-linear response. A novelty is an option to use the ring as a command dial in autofocus mode, which may be handy, especially on the S9. The function button can be set up in the camera menu, and it is always nice to see one on a Panasonic lens. There is also an AF/MF switch, which is again very useful on the S9, which doesn't have one. So how about the optical qualities? This is the first L-mount lens that I am testing with a new 44-megapixel sensor in Panasonic S1R II. This sensor is much more demanding than the 24-megapixel sensor that I have used for testing L-mount lenses before, but not extremely demanding by today's standards, so let's take a look at how it works together. At 24mm, the central sharpness is excellent right from f2.8. The contrast is great as well, and there is just the tiniest bit of chromatic aberration. f4 may be a bit more punchy if you will, and the chromatic aberration is completely gone. f5.6 and f8 look perfect. There is a moderate amount of diffraction at f11. The corner sharpness at f2.8 is solid. It is not as great as in the center of the frame, but all of the text is readable, which is a sign of solid resolution. There is some chromatic aberration, but it is not that bad. There are some improvements at f4 and f5.6 where we can see very solid image quality overall. There is no visible diffraction at f11. At 35mm, the image quality and the center of the frame is again very good right from f2.8. There is some increase of resolution at f4 where we can see perfect image quality with very little chromatic aberration. f5.6 and f8 look perfect as well. There is again a moderate amount of diffraction at f11. The image quality in the corners is also very solid at 35mm. The resolution is great and the contrast is solid as well, even at f2.8. There might be a bit of improvement at f4 and then we can see excellent image quality until f8. There is very little diffraction at f11. Finally, at 60mm we can see great image quality in the center of the frame. Both the contrast and the resolution are excellent with basically no chromatic aberration. The image quality is excellent from f2.8 to f8 and there is again a little bit of diffraction at f11. The image quality in the corners is great as well. We can see excellent sharpness and contrast from f2.8. There is tiny improvement at f4 and then we can see excellent image quality in the corners until f11 since there is basically no diffraction. Slightly lower image quality in the corners at 24mm can be explained by the need to use stronger profile corrections at the wide end to deal with barrel distortion. The distortion is much lower at 35mm, which is why the image quality in the corners at the low aperture values is better at 35mm. Considering the incredible size of this lens, I can say that this amount of profile corrections and associated image quality loss is perfectly fine and well worth it in exchange for the compact design. Overall, I can say that I am very happy with the image quality. The central sharpness is excellent right from f2.8 throughout the zoom range. You basically just need to stop down at the wide end to get the full corner sharpness, and that is in my opinion a very favorable trade-off for having almost standard zoom with this size and weight. Panasonic is aiming for maximal neutrality in terms of colors and overall character, and that is pretty much what you will get. It takes very nice pictures in combination with L-squared Lumix cameras, and the RAWs are a great starting point for post-production. The bokeh is very nice as well. It has 9 aperture blades and you can get quite a lot of subject separation towards the long end. The bokeh balls may not be as round as with the big 24-70 in the corners, but the transitions between areas in focus and out of focus are relatively smooth, so overall I am happy with the bokeh. The minimum focus distance is just 19 cm up to 30mm focal length, which means that this is a very capable semi-macro lens. At 0.3 times magnification, it is very suitable for flowers or for detailed product photography, for example. The image quality at the minimum focus distance is very solid, you just need to stop down a little bit to get the maximal sharpness. The autofocus is outstanding. This is the second Lumix lens to use dual mode linear focus motor. The focusing is extremely fast and completely smooth. I have mainly tested the autofocus with the new S1R II, which is a camera capable of 70 frames per second, and I was able to get perfect hit rate in various challenging situations with this lens on the S1R II. It works just as well for video, where we can get perfect accuracy and maximal smoothness. The motor is completely silent as expected from Panasonic, so it won't be captured by in-camera microphone or by shotgun microphone. The amount of focus breathing is exceptionally low. That is very impressive, especially when we consider the size of this lens. This lens appears to be parfocal, which means that the object will stay in focus as you are zooming in and out. The parfocal effect is almost certainly achieved digitally, but the result is the same. 24-60 is not stabilized, but all recently released Panasonic cameras have excellent in-body image stabilization, which also works great at this focal range. Especially with the S1R II series, you can even get a very usable bulking footage. They also offer a lot of smart digital stabilization features, such as the cropless digital image stabilization mode, which is a standout feature of the S1R II and S1R II. To sum up, Panasonic Lumix S 24-60mm F2.8 is in my opinion a non-standard standard zoom done right. First of all, I think that sacrificing the long end is the right choice if a manufacturer wants to trade the zoom range for a compact size. 24-60 is a very useful focal range and cropping in is always an option, especially with the S1R II. Importantly, the image quality is still great. The only compromise appears to be the significant use of profile corrections at the long end, which affects the corner sharpness around 24mm, but it is not terrible by any means, especially if you stop down a little bit. You will get excellent image quality across the frame in the rest of the zoom range. The build quality is great and it is indeed very compact. I can say that I've enjoyed the size of this lens on my recent trip to Iceland, where we had to walk quite a lot. The dual mode linear autofocus motor is outstanding, and so is the low amount of focus breathing. Overall, if you are willing to sacrifice 10mm at the long end, I would say that you will get quite a lot of compensation from this lens. Personally, I am willing to do so, which means that 24-60mm Lumix will be my main standard-ish zoom for the L-mount system for the foreseeable future. So that's it for this video, thank you for watching, I hope that you liked this video and that you have found it to be useful. Stay tuned for more videos and maybe consider subscribing if you don't want to miss my future content. I appreciate your feedback in form of thumbs up or thumbs down. If you would like to ask anything or share your opinion, please do so in the comment section, and see you next time.